Hi, I'm Daniel, I'm a sleep physician, and if you have insomnia, this channel is for you. Basil, one of our viewers, uses paradoxical intention to sleep like a cat. We're gonna see how she did just that. Hey there, hope you're doing really well, and welcome to Insomnia Insight number 285, in which we'll look at a comment from Basil about how she has studied her cat and noticed how it sleeps and kind of, used that as an example of paradoxical intention. Let's get right into it. This is a comment from 6 days ago from Insomnia Insight number 282. Hi, Daniel. Nice to see you speaking about this. What I was speaking about in that episode was, by the way, how a lot of us have existential questions like what's the meaning of life, how big is the universe, things like that, and we don't figure them out. We kind of just accept that it's unfigureoutable, which is really important for insomnia. Meaning often the process of trying to figure it out causes a lot of anxiety when it comes to insomnia, and just accepting that some things we cannot figure out, that can really help. So sorry about the little sidetrack there. Now, during my last night, I got 8 hours of full sleeping without any waking up. This was for the first time during this week where my sleep was usually 3 to 4 hours of fragmented sleep. And I think eventually I discovered that 90% of the treatment for any insomniac is the paradoxical intention of sleep. And if this seems to be hard, here's the evidence. For example, if you have a cat in your house, just notice how it sleeps by just sitting down, closing its eyes. Since we humans share a lot of biological functions with animals like breathing, eating, etc., this means it must be the same for sleeping. Until yesterday, I used to be convinced that our thoughts or overthinking has nothing to do with our sleep. But it is really just being worried about sleep that causes all sleep issues. So first of all, Basil, I was super excited reading this the first time. I'm really excited as I read this again, and I know that you're doing really well. Basil is a client that's been supporting the bedtime app as well, bedtime with the Y. Check it out if you have an iPhone. If you have an Android, it's coming your way soon. Anyways, so really happy about that. Now, let's get into the details here. Basil is saying here that 90% of the treatment is paradoxical intention. So what is paradoxical intention? When I was in sleep fellowship, like 8 years ago or something, like 9 years ago, it was one of the core techniques actually that was taught. It was, bedtime restriction, where you spend less time in bed, and stimulus control, which is when you try to avoid associating the bed with anxiety, stress, etc., by leaving the bed when you are frustrated in bed, and then paradoxical intention. Paradoxical intention is quite simple in a way. It was taught to me as kind of like going to bed and then actively trying to stay awake. Like literally going to bed and being like, I want to stay awake. I have to stay awake. I gotta stay awake. I want to stay awake. And the paradox of that is, the paradoxical thing is that can actually help you fall asleep. And here's the thing, at its core, I believe it 100% that when we want to sleep, the process of like thinking about how we want to sleep and hoping we'll sleep, that causes so much hyper arousal, kind of preoccupation, thoughts, etc., that it keeps us from sleeping. But when we're doing something that where we actually want to stay awake, like classically somebody's watching TV 9 p.m. or maybe driving or at work or something like that, when you want to stay awake, sleep comes very easy. So I totally believe in the concept of paradoxical intention. Now, that way it was taught to me, just like stay in bed and try to stay awake, it's a little bit too simplistic, I think. I don't think that necessarily works. But that I hope that gives you a sense of what paradoxical intention is. Now, moving over to the cat, I've thought about this myself, like what's the experience for a cat or a dog or something like that. I do believe that they do not have insomnia. I cannot imagine that a mammal has insomnia, which does, kind of prove that it is our thought process, I believe, that causes insomnia. Trying to figure out why we have trouble sleeping and like anxiety and things like that cause insomnia. So it is true, I believe, that for a cat, they they probably just get kind of an instinct or something, like a notion that, okay, I'm sleepy and I'm going to sleep, and there's no reflection, there's no thinking about like, what if I don't sleep? Why did this happen? What if that, etc. So I believe that to be true. Now the question becomes, how can you sleep like a cat, and not necessarily taking a lot of cat naps, but like, how can you get to a point where you just lay down and sleep? Well, a lot of people will try to find a way to shut the brain off, stop the racing thoughts. And that kind of direct approach never works. You cannot decide to stop thinking. You cannot kind of block thoughts. You cannot be like, don't think of anything, don't think of anything, don't think of anything. That never works. I believe that the key is to, if you can go to bed and you can think of something pleasant, if you can take your thoughts in a pleasant direction, perfect, that's great. But when that is hard, when you go to bed and you're like, you just cannot help but being frustrated and think about sleep, etc., then you have to do something. Action is something we have more control. We can do things that shift our attention. You can read a book in bed, totally fine in my opinion, as long as you're having a good time in bed, reading, watching Netflix, doing a crossword puzzle, whatever it is. You can do it in bed if you're happy doing it. But if you're frustrated, then I do think you should leave the bed and do something that's enjoyable outside of bed. And using paradoxical intention is like, in a way that is paradoxical intention, because you're no longer trying to sleep, and that really helps with that. So Basil, I hope you sleep good forever, and thanks for sharing these insights with us. And I'll be back tomorrow again, talking about maybe some insight, and also about like 2020, because I think tomorrow is going to be the last upload for this year. So hope to have you back tomorrow though, and have a really good night or morning or day to you. Bye-bye.